Welcome to the Celebrating Indigenous Voices Through Film program at the 10th Celebrate Micronesia Festival. We acknowledge with deep gratitude and respect Hawaiʻi's Kanaka Maoli, the indigenous people and stewards of this land. Hawaiʻi and aloha, my name is Brilyn Aguilar. I'm a Chamorro from the island of Guahan, descended from the Alejo, Bodoki, Manuk, and Carabao clans. As a daughter of the Marianas, I am privileged to present this film program to you. The Pacific Islands Development Program at the East-West Center would like to acknowledge the leaders of Micronesian communities in Hawaii and festival partners. Bishop Museum, Center for Pacific Island Studies at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, Hawaii Council for the Humanities, National Endowment for the Humanities, Aloha Care, Barbara B. Smith Endowment for East-West Center Micronesia Focus Programs, Festival co-sponsors, Hawaii Coalition for Immigrant Rights, Ethnic Education Hawaii, JSS by Design, Dr. Mary Therese Perez Hattori and family, Celebrating Indigenous Voices Through Film co-sponsors, Herb and Nancy Connolly. This program began with screenings by 3 filmmakers. Maisa, the Chamorro Girl Who Saves Guahan by Michael Q. Ceballos of Twiddle Productions, a trailer for The Way of Skoya by Sayun Simung of the Indigenous Film Academy of Taiwan, and a trailer for Promesa presented by Rita P. Nauta of Guampedia. The screening was followed by a panel discussion featuring the 3 filmmakers on the topic of perpetuating and celebrating Indigenous language and identity through the medium of film. The film screenings and panel discussion during the Celebrate Micronesia Festival are offered to the community as an opportunity to cultivate social justice and harmony through the conversation and appreciation. Any views, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this discussion or films do not necessarily represent those of the National Endowment for the Humanities. Michael Q. Ceballos, CEO and founder of Twiddle Production, boasts over 25 years in animation and gaming. He worked on Nickelodeon's The Angry Beavers and Comedy Central's Kid Notorious with Robert Evans. Relocating to Honolulu in 2005, he art-directed 2 educational RPGs for the Nintendo DS. Michael created the award-winning E Ho'omau series and in 2011 won Best Animation at the Guam International Film Festival. Founding Twiddle Productions in 2013, he produced Ola Naivi Haloa and the award-winning Maisa the Chamorro Girl Who Saves Guahan. Recently, he developed Keiki Coding, teaching game creation to children. Based on a beloved classic legend from the island of Guam, Maisa the Chamorro Girl Who Saves Guahan tells a story of how a young Chamorro girl finds strength, wisdom, and courage to lead the women of Guahan into battle against a giant creature from the Marianas Trench that is devouring their island home. Maisa is the first animated film to feature the endangered indigenous Chamorro language of Guam. For this film, cultural and language experts worked diligently on bringing the language back to its historical pre-contact era. We welcome Maisa Cultural Advisor, Tony Malia Ramirez, to offer comments during the panel discussion. Sayun is of the Tayal people, which is one of the indigenous people of Taiwan. She graduated with a degree in radio and television from the National Taiwan University of the Arts, after which she worked as a reporter for the Taiwan Indigenous Television and Era TV stations, and also served as a documentary production coordinator for the public television service. Because of years of working experiences, Sayun decided to return to Skoya village to shoot Tayal culture that was about to disappear. Director Sayun has been inspired to explore deeper into the cultural essence of her own tribe. She also anticipates that through the process of creating the tribal 3D map by Tokoro youth in the community and physically venturing into traditional territories to survey, she can narrate the story of the tribal land from the perspective of the Skoya of Tayal. She hopes to see the land deeply connected to the ancestors and expects to find true land justice for the indigenous people. From the Galaidi, Diaz, and Kotla clans of her ancestral village of Sumai, Guam, Rita Pangilinan Nauta's cultural advocacy and passion for her Chamorro heritage led her to digital storytelling and serving as Guampedia.com's managing director since 2011. Her films include Itinituhun Punta Zenfuna, Hasu Igunahan Guahan, Guam's Unique Sense of Place, and Voices of Our Elders vignettes. The documentary Promesa provides a profound reflection for the intertwined nature of faith, family, and community. Through intimate interviews with prayer leaders Rita Pangilinan Nauta, Carmen Camacho Rojas, Teresita Concepcion Flores, and Malia Leon Guerrero Ramirez, the film highlights the Chamorro Novena, or Novena tradition, and significance beyond religious practice. It showcases not only the religious underpinnings, but also the unifying force, binding families and communities together, capturing the richness and depth of this tradition, ensuring its enduring legacy within the Chamorro culture.
Well, this time because last year I came along to connect to the people in Hawaii and also Micronesia family, and this time I bring the team from Indigenous Taiwanese Taiwan. Also, I invite the Banza tribe, the producer and director, and their trailer will play later. And you mean the fast pack or the whole festival? Celebrate. Yeah, because last time I went to Micronesia, and I feel like because I saw many familiar faces, like Michael, like the other people, and it's a really. I think this is a start to connect together, because this is the reason I come to visit again, because I don't want to the exchange ideas to be only one time. So for me, for my position, I think I have a responsibility to work, cooperate to Micronesia filmmaker, and also including our young filmmaker too. Yes, this is a kind of one of a mission and purpose. Yeah, thank you.
Can I just make a comment on the indigenous people of Taiwan? So I was there in 1960 in Taiwan, and we were in the company of the Chinese who migrated into Taiwan. And then I learned that they weren't the original group, that there was an indigenous group called the, I don't want to use the word Aborigine, but the indigenous group of Taiwan. And I said, oh really? And I said, well, they're the same people as you, the Chamorros. Then I said to them, how can I visit the indigenous people of Taiwan? They told me to go to Hualien. And I took a flight to Hualien, and those mountain scenes that you showed in your film is almost exactly what I saw when I went to Hualien. And when I met the people, I really sensed that strong connection because of the physical features of the indigenous people of Taiwan. And as an historian for Guam, I really think that there is a deeper connection with Taiwan and the Marianas, because we are the closest in the northern hemisphere of what we call the Proto-Austronesian group of people. Thank you.
Well, because I think because we also island people, we have a different tribe. We have officially 16 tribes in Taiwan. So we also live in the island. So I think the ocean connects us all. So that's why I'm here. And actually, we have a similar culture. Also, we have a similar assimilation of the history. So we can relate to each other. So because we are we're doing the visual art through the visual to tell our story. This is our way because we are filmmaker. But the special thing is this some kind of when we take on the camera to tell our story. This is a privilege. This is the right to take our voice back. Yeah. So also because we nearly not really don't know how the Pacific Islanders, the director, filmmaker, what they are doing, and maybe they have some way, their own way to empower their filmmaker. They teach each other. So maybe this is a great opportunity for us to come here to learn from each other, to exchange the ideas, how we can make it to do it better. Or in the future, maybe we can cooperate each other to tell the story, to empower more young generation filmmakers, including myself, and indigenous stories through film to everybody knows in the world. Yeah, this is a final, kind of like a final purpose to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sayun. Rita, if you could also comment on the theme of celebrating Indigenous voices through film.
Yes, thank you so much. I've been very blessed to be part of this Guampedia voyage. Guampedia started 20 years ago as an idea in that at that time we had no Guam museum. We had no place to see our artifacts, to see our story. And the history of Guam, and it's prevalent throughout Pacifica, is an oral tradition that's passed on for generations. And growing up in the 60s and 70s in Guam, Maisa, the story we learned, but the focus was on the fish. It wasn't on the cultural values and the lessons told. And so I remember learning the 50 states before I even knew about the entire Micronesia and my neighboring islands and brothers and sisters. And so the Guampedia project was about bringing information, history, culture, heritage into the online space. And then through the development of technology and the stories unfolding, a lot of people would say, how do you know all this? How come I didn't know this 60 years ago? Archaeology in the Marianas is just about 60 years old. So there's a lot of new information. There are a lot of traditional scholars now, indigenous scholars that are sharing stories. And so with celebrating indigenous voices and the power of film, we're not just an oral tradition, we're also visual. And it really resonates with Pacific Islanders, to see Pacific Islanders on the screen. And when we celebrate something, it means we value it, we appreciate it. And so to be in these classrooms on Guam and across Micronesia, to have these educational resources that teach about the islands and how they came to be through the stories of our ancestors that have been passed on, and then woven into it the stories from archaeology and anthropology, it just brings so much more, and you can take a deeper dive into it. And so the more we celebrate, the more we appreciate and empower our younger generations. Because the question that I ask myself now, I'm very fortunate to have inherited, I've been part of this heritage from my parents, teaching me the language in the homes. And I've come across a lot of young students that say, well, you know, Miss Rita, a lot of elders, a lot of signers, they don't like to share stories. And so being able to leverage technology and film to be able to bring these stories into the classrooms, online, and in people's homes to help the people feel connected, because there are twice as many Micronesians that live beyond Micronesia and live in the continental US. And in Guampedia, about 50% of our visitors, we get about 35,000 visitors a month. and 50% of them come from the continent. And when we look at where they come from, they're at all of these places that Chamorros have gone, joined the military, and retired. And we're now 3 or 4 generations of Chamorros that it's very hard to travel home. It's expensive. We wish we could jump on a canoe and head back. But leveraging technology and with film, we're able to bring that to them so that they can connect and resonate and inspire them to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you all for answering question number 1. For question number 2, I think what was very prominent in these films was these concepts of identity and belonging. So if we could also begin with Michael again, how could you comment on the importance of identity and representation in your film, and the sense of belonging in spaces as an Indigenous person, but also as a non-Indigenous person and connecting with Indigenous communities?
Yeah, actually this, from what you just said, it sparked a whole bunch of things that we experienced, so it links straight up to this question. When we toured MISA in places like California, we went to like Pomona, we went to multiple places where there's large Chamorro communities, and the comments that we were getting from people is, we miss Guam so much, and this is like having it come to us, you know, and hearing our language that was familiar but different because of the work Tony and the rest of the team did to try to pull out as much Spanish was very revealing to them, you know. We had multiple people just saying that they remember their grandparents saying certain words that they haven't heard. So I think that connection relates directly straight to your question. And, so having kids see somebody that looks like them, sounds like them, is in their own backyard, whether you know, whether it's Guam or Hawaii, kids recognize a connection, and it interests them. And for kids who don't know anything about those cultures, because it's something new, they connect to it too, right? So kids are way smarter than we think. They feel more from here, you know? That also has been very apparent in every screening we've had. And in fact, our very first screening, very first time out we showed the film was to kindergartners in Guam. And we forgot to use the version with the English subtitles, which has helped them. It didn't matter, they were just like this. Wow, you know. So this type of film and these things of Indigenous languages and creating spaces where we can create these things and work with these people who are experts is something that is really, really important.
Thanks, Michael, for that. Sayun, would you be able to comment on the importance of identity and representation in your film and your experience as an Indigenous person in creating spaces for Indigenous expression?
Thank you for the question, and I thought that very deep. I think many their meaning for me as myself. I think that for the way Skoyao is a part of a journey of my own to learn how to be a Dayan, and actually the start because I do when I'm making 3D maps to learning a traditional location, traditional places. Actually, is used to named by the ancestor and using our native language. So through language, we also learn our language, then our culture, and then our history of our ancestor whole of the migration history. So this is part of one to searching for identity, self-identity. And also I found when I know my culture very deep and profound, and also the more I know the history, the more I get the confidence for myself, for my culture. So this is because I know very not very well, still learning, but I feel confident because I can to tell you what are the authentic look or authentic story to convey to the audience. Yeah, not just the outsider to tell a story instead about our people. The other layer, that's I suddenly to think about that. Why am I here? I mean, why am I in Bishop Museum in Hawaii and with my team, my filmmaker fellows? Why? Actually, we're searching for the identity for the Pacific Ocean, our Oceania family as well. We want to be approval. We want to be accepted by you, because many times I came to Pacific Island, and of course sometimes for work, sometimes it's my personal journey. But this time I bring the team and my colleagues together. I feel like we kind of like searching for the identity, searching for a place in this group, in this society. So I don't know, I don't know what's going. Well, what would it be? What will it be in the future? But I think in this if we take our effort to it continuously, I think maybe we get to know each other more and more. Maybe we can accept it by the community, even Micronesia community, the other community, our Oceania. Yeah, so this is a layer by layer meaningful searching for the identity so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Sayun. Rita, if you could also, I know you touched on identity and representation kind of in the first question, but could you comment on your experience of the sense of belonging in Indigenous spaces, especially like at a time where the pandemic was a thing and you had to create those spaces online?
You mean the Indigenous Beokidami?
Oh, sorry, Sayun, this question's for Rita.
You know, in the sense of belonging and connection, since COVID, because we're an online resource and everybody was isolated, we activated. And we actually launched this project that we're still been operating in that notion of culture of connecting. Because as everyone started to be isolated, we used our resources online to connect people, and in this sense of belonging in Pacific cultures, in Chamorro culture, when you introduce yourself and you say the first thing they'll ask you is, where are you from? And you say your land. I'm from the island of Guam, the southernmost island in the Marianas Archipelago. And then the next question is, who are your parents? So it's really, our sense of identity is land and lineage. And in that very eloquent opening presentation, but I think it was American Samoa, he said that our heritage and our lineage is non-negotiable. I tell my kids, you don't choose your family. It's who you are, you're born into. And so as islanders, we connect to our land and the waters that surround it, not just the land. And then we connect through our lineage of who we are. And it's not just my mother, my father, my grandfather. one thing I've always heard from my parents, don't ever forget where you come from. And it's not just my life journey and their journey. We're talking about 150 generations, 4,000 years ago. Our ancestors jumped on those canoes and they ventured out. They were one of the first people in humankind. And I didn't learn this until I was 45 years old, that they were one of the first in the history of humankind to make an open ocean voyage, and for 1,200 miles, and started and settled the Marianas and what is now known as the Micronesia region. And that voyage that they started, I'm on that canoe now. And I ask myself, what kind of ancestor am I going to be? What kind of canoe are we going to leave behind and pass on? And there's that responsibility, that stewardship that we have to take on. And I'm very fortunate to live in this generation because I can't remember everything that my mother could. And so to leverage technology to help us teach and reach our children, to share our stories is very powerful. And you know, I think that our Famagu'an, our children, as islanders need to be reminded that, you know, we have to understand where we come from to know where we are today, and then be able to kind of navigate where we're going in the future. And that speaks to our seafaring tradition, that if you really think about it, on that canoe, the canoe is called the mother, the navigator is the father, and the entire crew is the family. And taking that notion of operating and functioning as a family on this canoe, everybody's got to paddle their weight, everybody's got to roll, and then taking that methodology or way of being and way of doing and applying it to living on an island. Everybody's got to get along, everybody's got to work together. And how you know who you are is where your land is and who your lineage is. And so those are I think the key points about culture of connecting. And in Guampedia, we get these Google Analytics, and we found that a lot of people that want to know about their island's history and connection is to feel connected to their family. That's the number one reason why they want to learn. And so through COVID, I think it was a blessing because it shut all the noise down to make us really think, why are we here? What is our purpose? And what are we going to do moving forward? And I'm at the sunset years of my life journey, and that's why I'm thinking about what kind of ancestor am I going to be? And to hopefully empower our future generations. And the power of the film is just amazing, and it gives hope to our future generations.
Thank you again for that. So we have one more prompted question. Given the context of celebrating Indigenous voices through the media of film, the last question is, how can you further engage communities, whether they are Indigenous or not, to support the Indigenous voices and the spaces that we create through arts? I know you all sort of commented on it, but if you could dive a little bit deeper into that. And again, we'll start off with Michael.
Okay, thank you. I actually haven't seen MISA for quite a while, and sitting there with our team was really nice. But it brought back so much information all at once of how it started, what we did, the journey through getting things done. And you know, I just wanted to first say that Senor Ron Laguatnia is the person who really made this happen. When we finished our Maui film and we went to Guam, him and I toured it to over 5,000 students in different schools and getting their reaction, you know. I think we met a few days ago, and one of the reactions from kids there where it was just, seeing somebody who looks like them, talks like them, like I said. But one boy in particular always stuck out to me. He came up to me and he said, hey, it was great to see somebody that looked like me, but I would love to do something like this, but I'll probably end up working at the garbage heap like my parents. And that was like such a crush to me, that he didn't have any feel he could do it. So, working with Ron, we were fortunate to, there was a grant that came out, we applied for it, we were up against it against several other people, and we're fortunate that it worked out in our favor. But the first thing we wanted to do was make sure that we could reach out to those kids like that. And through working with Tony, we first auditioned tons of students throughout the Guam High School, all the Guam High schools, and even the elementary schools for various roles. Maria, who was here, was one of those kids, her and her brother. And then also part of that was when we reached the phase of recording, it was just such a huge community event of singers, and Sina Frank Rabon was there, and all of our actors, and Tony, and just changing the script so that make sure that it was the best language version, things that we could get. And once we reached a certain point, we came back and worked with the UOG and worked with a group of college students to create art and background and animation. So we trained with them, and showed them how to not only create for animation and film, but also this allowed them to get their first screen credit, which is very important if you want to do this in a career. So every step of the way was about community involvement. And I know that a lot of those kids have moved on to work in film, some haven't, some are in animation. But I think whenever we create a project like this, or anybody creates a project like that, it's important to make sure that you're involved with a community that knows about this. Again, working with Tony, working with singer Rana Guatna. The thing that really sold it to me with Ron was it was this beautiful sunset. We just came back, had these long meetings, and we were all very tired. And Ron was out there just staring at the ocean and beautiful pink sunset. And I walk up to him and he says, Mike, my people are dying. They don't know it, but they're dying. They're losing their land, they're losing their culture, the language is almost gone. We have to make this work. And because of that, that is what made all of us want to do it even more. So that community comes with these projects. If you're in a good project, it happens naturally. So for us, we were fortunate to experience that, it's like one of the most important projects I've ever worked on, and I'm very proud. And it gets me chicken skin every time I think about this story. It's very deep, emotional for me. But yeah, so.
Thank you, Michael. Sayun, you talked a little bit about how this process of creating this documentary was your own personal journey of connecting to community. Could you talk a little bit more about how your work engages the communities to support the indigenous peoples and their spaces?
As my experience, from my experience, I really, first I really agree with Michael that if you to have a too strong intention to do some project or plan, maybe the people in the community, they will refuse at first because it's too strong. But if it is happen very naturally, you will accept by the community very well, I think. For me, the way of going out this documentary short film is I begin to to making 3D maps, and then to document, to film all the process. So as you see, I'm making a film in the end. And also I finish with my my people, my young people and my friends in tribe. We making together, making the 3D maps. Also, we cooperate with the grandpa and grandma. Because every morning, Monday to Friday, they will go to they call, this is kind of like a welfare by the government. It's called Cultural and Healthy Center. And the grandpa and grandma will go to the same place. I think it is a community activity center, and they will doing some exercise and sharing sharing daily life together. And so I kind of like, because our territory is very big, so my 3D you making the 3D maps is I have 20 pieces. Someone asked me, why don't you making the 3D maps by 3D machine, print them out, because it's quicker, faster. Why don't you choose? Why do you choose this? Hand by handmade, because it's a very long. You have to take a long process. So my answer is when we making handmade with the community, the people, no matter what they are elders or the young people. Also, we cooperate with elementary school in the tribe. I think this is a space we can create some intimate space. We can share, we can talking in this time, and this is a kind of like we, not just only me, each other we can create the memory together. So perhaps when we finish the 3D film, 3D maps, and 5 years later, they will remember, this is one piece is I making these 3D maps with the other grandpa, grandma, and at that time maybe the grandpa, grandma taught to me some language, the native language and the story of the land. So I think this is a really lucky. We still have elders. We still have a chance to learn from them. So this is my experience. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sayun. For Rita, I know you also talked again about engaging community, but if you could also just dive a little bit deeper into the process of engagement, both, I suppose, in person and online.
So online with Guampedia as an educational resource, we really wanted to provide as much information that's available. Unlike Wikipedia, we control the back end, and we peer review and fact check everything that we put online, because we have been endorsed by the Department of Education in Guam to be utilized in the classrooms. So first and foremost, we're an educational website, but we really try to focus on bringing Indigenous voice and sharing perspectives. In our tagline is know our islands, know our history. And across the Pacific, our islands have become culturally diverse. And so what I share to students is, even if you're not Chamorro, but you call Guam home, the land has a story. And in order for you to understand what Guam is like today, or why it's like this today, you have to look back in its history. And the history of place gives that sense of place to an area, a place, and it makes it unique. And so it's important, whether you're Indigenous or not Indigenous, that if you call that land home, that you understand the story of that land and understand and respect the people, the indigenous people of that land. And so we also get Guampedia out of the online and into the community. In Guam, we celebrate Chamorro heritage. It used to be a day, then it turned into a week. Now we have a whole month of celebrating Chamorro heritage. So we launched at the Guam, we do now have a Guam Museum, which we actually opened when Guam hosted Festival of Pacific Arts in 2016. That was a 90-year project. But being able to bring together people, and we created this program called Mariana Storytelling. And we used digital stories and live stories. So we had like Malia come and share stories and then showcase films that speak to indigenous experiences. And then what we did though is we created a space where Chamorro stories actually happen around the kitchen table, around the barbecue. So we set up the stage. Instead of a podium, we put a kitchen table. And we invited people to come to the table and share stories, to also inspire others to share stories at their kitchen tables, at their dinner tables, about the island, about the place, and like Sayun said, to create these spaces to share stories. Thank you.
Thank you again so much for attending the screening and the panel. Sujos Masi Mahalo.
Mahalo,
Thank you very
Mahaisu.
We hope you enjoyed the panel. For additional information, here are some resources provided by the filmmakers. Siduos Maasi and Mahalo Nui for joining us for this presentation and panel discussion for the Celebrating Indigenous Voices Through Film program. Your support and engagement are vital in amplifying these important voices and stories. We appreciate your commitment to this cause. Vibes.